Hi, I'm David De Silva. I'm a business consultant and a life coach. Great business owners hire me to help them get balance in their life. I work with men that have great companies and make good money, but they recognize there's something missing. Often, if I ask them what's their life like at home, they'll tell me it's great. And I think a part of that is their ego, and I think a part of that is they're just distracted from an actual reality. What I've found is whenever I focus on all the things that are going well, I'm oblivious to the things that aren't going well. And sometimes, just as a businessman, I'm trained to do that. I have to be on all the time. So the more focused I am on how things are going well, the more driven I can be to take my company from where it is to where I need it to be. The problem is if you need to do an authentic assessment of where your life's really at, you've got to look at the stuff that isn't working. A lot of people are talking about this word hustle, that you just do everything in your power to get your business to where it needs to be. The problem is, if you do that, there is an opportunity cost. And people don't talk about that. They don't talk about it because they don't even know it's happening. But if you hustle enough, you can hustle yourself from a married life with children to being single. Is that hustle worth it? Honestly, my life was shit. I got up way before anyone else got up, and I came home after they went to bed. My life revolved around work, work, work. And then, on the way home, I would always stop and have a drink or two, because I knew that if I got home a little bit early and people were still awake, I had no idea what to do. So I almost avoided all of my responsibilities. It was exhausting, because deep down I needed my wife, my kids to validate me. I needed them to say, hey, thanks for doing this. I appreciate all your hard work. But yet I completely avoided any opportunity to engage them. I couldn't stand it. If I was there, I felt guilty for not being there on a regular basis. And if I was there, they could criticize me for not being there on a regular basis. Either situation, I didn't want. This went on for years, and I made lots of money. I created businesses, I helped lots of people's lives, but my life was a fraud. Everything I was doing seemed fake, and it was driving me crazy. And then one day, I get home, and my wife, in one of those funny ways, sits me down and says, we need to talk. What a horrible feeling that was. But I was pleasantly surprised. What she said to me, she didn't say with a lawyer who was retained. She didn't say with her bags packed. And she didn't say with divorce in mind or wanting me to leave or her to leave. What she said was, David, you're an incredible businessman, but you're a really poor husband and father. I think for the first time in my life, I actually didn't get mad at her for criticizing me. The first time. And it was just because it was such an honest and genuine way to share with me what she was going through. I think for the first time, I actually didn't get angry with her for sharing her heart, because I knew she was genuinely concerned about me. But she was able to tell me in a way that, well, how it was impacting her and the kids. Another comforting part of this was that I didn't know how to do this well. And she knew I didn't know how to do this well. Well, the next day, I could barely work. I just kept thinking, what are we going to do? How does a person who has never been fathered, father? How does a person who's never been a husband to a wife do this? I had the heart, but I wasn't equipped to do it. Well, I asked my wife, and this is where the story gets quite funny. She said, I think we should sell all our businesses and move to a different city. Well, remember earlier when I said I didn't get angry? Well, this time I did get angry. Because right now in our businesses, we were getting crushed. Because at this moment in our businesses, we were getting crushed. Our businesses were not doing perfectly well. They certainly weren't in a sellable place. And she had this brilliant idea to just sell everything and move. So in a not so nice way, I said, what are you talking about? How is that even possible? You don't know what you're talking about. A wise person once told me, if someone says you don't know what you're talking about, stop talking, because they know exactly what you're talking about. So I decided to take some moves to sell the business. And within 3 or 4 weeks, I had an offer on the table, and we moved. This was one of the most powerful things that I had done in my 25 years in business. I was taking the greatest risk, taking the greatest chance, and the payoff was my family and winning them back. Little did I know, this is just where the battle was starting. My whole life I used work to hide from what was really going on inside. I did not have to deal with any of my garbage because I just worked. Well, now I've sold my businesses and I'm moving to another city, and my resolve is I'm not going to work. I'm going to work on myself. I'm not going to buy a business. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to win back my wife, and I'm going to win back my kids. This took 4 years. 4 incredibly long years. This was not an easy task. This was not an easy journey. This was exhausting. We saw counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. When we attended a church, we would take every prayer opportunity that we could. We read every book that we could get our hands on. We met with other couples. We sought out professional help from those of pastors, psychologists, counselors. It was all really helpful, but there was just something missing, an almost glue holding it all together, a specific application for us as a family. More importantly for me, after 4 long years and all the work and effort that I put into it and all the support that I had, I created something that anyone else could use, apply to their life, and get the same results. I've won back my family. I've got them back. The men that I'm working with are getting results within a month, within 2 months, within 3 months. Lives changed. The way they think is different. The way they behave is different. Their wife, their kids, their employees are all engaging them on different levels because of who they are. Even in my life, it was incredible coming home and having my kids run and leap to the door because they couldn't wait to see me. That is something that hasn't happened for a very, very long time. Walking into the doorway and looking at a beaming smile on my wife's face. This was worth all the work that I've done. And now, when my clients achieve these results, it's worth everything to them. I love the idea of sticky notes. You can leave a sticky note to bless and encourage somebody. You can leave it on a refrigerator, in their gym bag, near their briefcase, at the front door, in their car. There's ample places where you can do this. But a simple sticky note reminding your loved one of who they are and how much they mean to you is the most powerful thing you can do to get momentum today. With your children, one of the things that I've had immediate results for is actually stopping what I'm doing and engaging them. Think about how many times your kids come up to you and say, "Hey Dad," and you say, "Just a second." What is that setting precedent for? They know they're always second fiddle. One of the things that you can start doing today is when they call out at you, you just say, "Yes. What can I do for you?" And not only do you do that, but you look them in the eye, you smile, and you invite them to engage with you. That's a lot different than having your cell phone and going, "Yep, what do you need?" With your employees, one of the greatest quick fixes I can give you, one of the best helpful hints I can share with you, is to tell them what they're doing well. We have an old saying in business, we call it seagull management. I don't know if you can imagine a seagull swooping in, doing its business on people's heads, and swooping out. That's seagull management. I want you to engage your employees, and I want you to share with them 1 or 2 things that they do really well. Don't do it as a setup for what they do wrong. Just to bless them and encourage them in what they do well, and leave it at that. These are 3 areas with your spouse, with your children, and with your employees that you can do and start doing today to get results, to mark change, to start shifting the atmosphere in your home, in your workplace, to see the change that you need to get the results that you want. One of the things that helps with this is your mindset. And in order to be an excellent husband, I had to shift my mindset to that of, I want to serve my wife, I don't want to be served by my wife. With my children, I realize that I'm responsible for my children. They're going to create things in this lifetime. They're going to do great things. And a lot of it will depend on how I pour into them. And with my employees, am I pouring into them because I want to encourage them to move on when the time is right and break out on their own or do wonderful things for themselves? Or am I pouring into them just enough to retain them and make sure they never leave me? The real problem is not that you're in this place where you work all the time and you don't have a great relationship with your wife and your children. The real problem is why you're not putting the work in where you know it needs to be. The real problem is why isn't there balance? Now, every person is different, but for most, this comes down to too big an ego, a pile of insecurity, or just a general feeling of inadequacy. For me, I was ill-equipped. I actually just didn't know how to do it. I did not have excellent modeling on how to be a father and how to be a husband. I want to ask you to think about how parenting and being a husband to a wife was modeled for you. Did you learn things that were excellent? Did you learn things that were adequate? Did you learn things that were brutal? To give you an example, a lot of people are born and raised into a poverty mentality, and they carry that on as they age. This can manifest in an obsession with trying to make more and more money. And all of a sudden, you do, but it's at the cost of your wife and children. And if you really think about it, that was the whole reason you were doing it. I want you to think long and hard before you click on the messenger button. I'd like to have a very difficult conversation with you. Call it a strategy call. Call it a blessing call. Call it an opportunity call. Let's have a conversation to get your life back. As I mentioned earlier, my wife didn't have her bags packed, didn't retain a lawyer, and wasn't ready to walk out the door. Not all wives will be as gracious as that. It's time to get your life back. In this call, you will learn the tools necessary to engage your wife, win back your children, and pour into your employees. And it's just the beginning.